All right, YouTube, once again, it's Kennard, Vernon, and Stewart here for the podcast. Talking Auburn football, go ahead and subscribe to Vernon Speak Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger. Down in the Deep South, college football is king. And on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Eagle. Okay, so I've been a little bit off the scene. I didn't cover much for the spring football camp. But there were a lot of good things going on and a lot of, not so great things going on as far as the spring football goes. As it has been, documented, Auburn's still looking for a quarterback. I mean, we just got to be honest. The quarterback position is definitely not solidified. And when you look at the quarterback position of teams that are successful in the SEC and in Power 5 football, the teams that compete on the high level, the quarterback position is, obviously very important. And it's obviously very important for that quarterback rating to be, relatively high. And when you look at the Auburn quarterbacks, you look at games, even where Robbie Ashford even won games. His completion percentage really wasn't that good. There weren't many attempts. There were more runs and passes. And then you look at the spring game, although the weather conditions weren't favorable, but the quarterback position still did not leave to the desire that that's going to be a successful position based on who's there. So you got to think that Auburn's going to be looking at the transfer portal to solidify that position. Got some guys that are, listed name-wise. We won't get into that at the moment. We'll probably do a video on that a little bit later on. And of course, we're late to the party. We got some guys that have already covered some of these things, which is cool, but you just haven't heard it from me yet. So, that is what it is. So when you look at the recruiting class for Auburn 2024, so far you got 5 guys. You got Walker White, who ranks at 94% as a quarterback. He's the highest rated player in this class. You also have Marion Burnett, which I actually covered a couple of weeks ago. Not necessarily that breakaway running back, but he could be someone who could be develop into such. And I will irresponsibly compare him to Derrick Henry at the moment, because I know I get a lot of backlash when I do these comparisons. And then you got Amon Lane at a cornerback, Jaden Lewis at cornerback. But the topic of discussion today is Martavious Collins out of Calhoun High School in Calhoun, Georgia. A real diamond in the rough. And if you really dissect the term athlete, you usually don't dissect that term as a guy that's a tight end. But after review of film, after review of this really interesting skill set that Martavious Collins has, I understand now why you would list a guy 6'3", 241 pounds as an athlete. Because usually what you do as an athlete, you list a guy that can play running back and wide receiver, those real high level skill positions. But Martavious Collins is just not, he's not that guy, but he's definitely a guy that can do a lot of things. And that's why it is possible that in his recruiting, he's listed as an athlete. And when you look at the video on him, he can do a lot of stuff. He can line up at wide receiver. They usually have him in that, shallow position at wide receiver. He runs a lot of dig routes. He runs a lot of crossing patterns. He doesn't really go deep, but he does enough to hurt you because he creates that mismatch at the point of attack. And I think as Hugh Freeze has dissected the success that teams have had. You talk about Auburn, Alabama and Georgia have had some huge success at that intermediate tight end mismatch position. And that's obviously, in my opinion, what I think they were looking for with this, he blocks well. He's hard to tackle. He's a guy that can hurt you. He's a guy that can create mismatches and create some imbalance on defense. In addition to that, you got the 2023 recruiting class with one of my favorite recruits out of that 2023 recruiting class for Auburn is Clay Wedden, offensive tackle that was flipped from Miami. And I mean, we don't even have to really go into a long conversation about how Jeremiah Cobb will be impactful. And then you have Nick Martiner, that I think once he hones his skills in, he had some issues with catching the football. I think, that's one of the main things. Hey, we like the guy, but he's got to get a little bit more catches in the passing game. And, that's someone that Auburn is going to look to be productive in this class. And arguably one of my favorite recruits as well is Brian Battier out of the University of South Florida, who's a transfer as well, that can create some imbalance, kind of remind me of Ontario McCaleb. Probably not as fast as Ontario McCaleb, but he gives you that extra punch in the run game. But back to Martavious Collins. You talk about a guy 6'3", 241 pounds, creating all types of mismatches, especially in the intermediate portion of the football field. He can move the sticks for you. He can actually help you with blocking. He can actually help you with, once he gets going and once he becomes a target, focus starts to become on him. And then that creates some opportunities for other players on the football field. And I think that's going to be very important as Auburn continues to diversify their offense going into not only the 2023 season, well, the 2024 season once he arrives, but you got the onboarding of Texas and Oklahoma, to where Auburn is they're just going to have to be better on offense. If they're going to compete at a high level, they got to be better on offense. And, bringing on Walker White, probably bringing on another quarterback that will help to push Walker White, who probably, he may be a starter first year. He may not. Hell, he may decommit. We don't know. But if Auburn is going to be successful, the offense has to diversify. And in diversification, you start to bring on guys like Martavious Collins. You start to bring on guys like, Jeremiah Cobb, Brian Battier, to help to get these defenses all balanced, because these guys are highly skilled. A lot of these guys, especially at the cornerback position, know the wide receiver position well because they played it in high school. So it's going to be very important for Auburn to get away from the traditional, hey, we're going to run it and pound it and all this other stuff. They're going to have to throw the ball vertically, vertically down the field. And they're going to have to make big plays, and they're going to have high-level wide receivers to be able to do this. But having a guy like Martavious Collins to kind of balance that out, I think will be very important. Now, when we look at the schedule, we look at Auburn, going into this season with, just coming off the spring game, from what I've been able to see, there's just not a lot of expectation. There's not a lot of, hey, we're about to do this thing, because a lot of the fans just did not see what they thought they needed to see in order for there to be a 100% turnaround from the Brian Harsin era, which was, abysmal at best. Started off pretty good. Bo Nix gets injured, and all of a sudden you have a imploding of a program. All right, so let me know what you think about this video. Welcome to the squad, Martavious Collins, 6'3", 241 pounds, out of Calhoun, Georgia. Auburn does a really good job of recruiting out of Georgia, especially from a location standpoint. Auburn is only about 40 miles from the state line, so they're able to, kind of tread into those Georgia waters, especially recruit well in the Gwinnett County area in Georgia. Like this video, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, It's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.